Good evening everybody, and once again welcome back to the channel. In today's video I would love to show you how you can leverage step functions to orchestrate your Spark jobs. Not only that, a small twist in this is we are going to be creating a transient cluster. So the step function will go ahead and create in EMR on EC2 and it's going to be using spot instances. Once the cluster is provisioned, it's going to run the bootstrap script and then it's going to submit a sample PySpark job as a step. Once the job is complete, then the cluster is automatically terminated. So everything is completely orchestrated by step functions. So I hope you're excited. So without wasting any further time, let's begin the hands-on lab. So before we begin the session, I would like to show you a glimpse of it. And then of course, we'll dive into the code part. So as you can see, right, this has already been executed, but I just want to show you, right? Automatically it will create an EMR on EC2 cluster, right? Once the cluster is done, it's gonna run the bootstrap script. Bootstrapping is a way if you want to install any library or dependencies on that particular machine, you could do that. Then it submits a job as a step and the step function pause the execution. Once the job is complete, it will go ahead and terminate the cluster. If something went wrong, it goes to the fail state and then of course will terminate the cluster. So everything is completely orchestrated with step function. So now let's get hands-on. So let's go over the step function JSON, right? So again, you can copy paste, this is very, very generic. So the first thing is create EMR cluster. As you can see, it's a type task. And then we use on.aws.states : elastic map reduce : create cluster.sync. Okay. And then here you can see I name.dollar again. So let me show you the JSON, right? So hopefully you'll see what I'm saying. Cluster name, I'm gonna add as a JSON config, right? So now you see the state function name.dollar. So the cluster name will be replaced over here. Similarly, whatever EMR version I want to use, 7.5, 7.4, I can simply swap that in the JSON config, right? Application, do I need a Spark? Do I need any other dependencies? I can specify that. Service role, job flow, log URI, instances, and the bootstrapping action. So what you see is everything is a placeholder simply in the step function, right? And the next step, as you can see, if the create cluster is complete, right, it goes to run EMR step. This is the run EMR step. It's a type again task and on.aws.states : elastic map reduce : add step dot sync. So this will submit that PySpark job to the EMR cluster. And once the job is complete, it will head to the next step, which is terminate cluster. If something went wrong, there's a catch block and the catch block will automatically go into the fail state and which will again go into terminate cluster. Terminate cluster similarly, as you can see, takes the cluster ID and the job is to simply terminate the cluster. So come here, copy this, okay, and then head over to your AWS console. Go to step function, create a step function, and then in the code section, simply paste it, right? I have already done that because I already have a step function. So I will come here, click here, show you a sample one, right? So I have a step function. Now I'm going to fire that, right? Before we fire that, we do need to do a couple of things. So for first thing is we need a sample data to play with. So we can submit a PySpark job. We can write some mock data, right? And then the next thing is we need to define the bootstrapping script. Bootstrapping means what library you want to install on EMR, right? So we'll do that. So step one, go ahead and create your step functions. And now let's do the next step, okay? So I do have this upload file.shell, okay? And then I see a test job.py, okay? Test job.py is a very simple PySpark job. It will read the data from S3 as a Spark data frame, does compute some aggregation, and then writes the data back into S3. Very simple, read some data, does some aggregation, write it back. Again, the goal is to understand the entire orchestration which is done by step function, right? So that's that. And then the bootstrap script over here, as you can see, it will install 2 libraries. Of course, you can add more as needed, right? So the first step that you want to do, I will open up my terminal if I have it quickly. I will go to this project directory, copy. And then I will execute the shell file, upload files.sh. Before that, I don't have any files on my bucket, right? So I just want to quickly show you /upload shell. Right? Okay, so all right. So now if I refresh, I have a raw. I have some data to play with, right? Some mock data, again, doesn't really matter, but again, just some mock data. Scripts, bootstrap.shell, and then my PySpark script. So both the PySpark job and the shell file, right? It's copied into S3, right? Now I can submit the job, right? So now this side, as you can see, where I can see my EMR clusters. I do not have any clusters in the running state, right? Now I'll go to step functions, and then I'll go to my JSON. I will give you this file called fire.json, right? So I'm giving it my cluster name called my EMR cluster. Release is going to be 7.5.0. Again, see, easy, right? Now I can simply swap it. I want to use 7.4. Okay, I want to use other version. I can simply change over here in the config. I need Spark for this. Again, if you need other items, you can easily add it. So makes it super easy, right? Config driven. Service role and job flow role. I'm using the default role over here. Log URI, the EMR will store the logs in this particular bucket. Now here I am just, again, since I'm teaching you, right, I want to keep my cost minimum, right? So I'm just using one primary node. You can add more core nodes and task node, and you can use spot instances as well. But for teaching purposes, again, I just want to keep my cost minimum for my AWS. So I'm using one primary node, which is M5 extra large. That's that. And then the bootstrap. So here is the script, the bootstrap script, which we uploaded on S3, right? And then of course, this is going to be our sample job, right? PySpark job. Cool, right? So let's go here. Let me also come here. I'll click on new execution. I paste this one here, format JSON. Let me adjust my screen size. Again, no clusters currently. Start execution. Okay, creating EMR cluster at this point. Let's refresh. Here, you can see the cluster currently now is in the starting state. As you can see, right? It's preparing the cluster. As soon as the cluster is ready, then it will run the bootstrapping script on it. So all the libraries will be installed. So let's wait. So I'm simply waiting here, because usually, see, creating cluster takes a little time, right? Because it has to provision your instances, right? Then it has to install those bootstrapping scripts on that, right? So right now the cluster is in the starting state. It works fine. I mean, it's just flawless, right? Creates the cluster on the fly, runs my PySpark job. Once done, I will terminate the cluster. So just fantastic. Okay. So if I click here, and if I go to steps, I do not have any step right now, right? So at the moment, the cluster is just being provisioned right now. So, and once the bootstrapping is complete, then it will go and submit that PySpark job as a step, right? So right now I do not see any step, remember. And as the workflow transition, you will see the states also, this will become green, this will become green, and then they will go to the terminate cluster at the end. So coming here. So right now it's just bootstrapping is happening. So I think I just have to wait a little bit here. So you can see the cluster is now in the waiting state. So this, the step function should now go to run EMR steps. So I'm just waiting for that to transition. It should happen. So if I go to my cluster right now and probably go to step, I don't have anything, right? So once this is done, it will move to the next particular step. Okay. So let's watch that in action. So the cluster is in the waiting state. So now since the cluster creation is complete, the step function will okay, there you go. Perfect. Run EMR step. So right. So now I'll click here. Step. There you go. Your PySpark job, man. Here, Spark submit, and this is my sample PySpark job, right? Now it is in the pending state. Once it is running and completed, this will now go and again, the step function has paused its execution at this point, right? Once the job completes, then it will either transition to fail state or success depending upon the status, and then the cluster will be terminated at the end. Okay. So now just gotta wait over here. Okay. So coming to my S3, let's see if we have an output file. Not yet. Refreshing. Now it's in the running state. As you can see that EMR, the job is now in the running state. So let's wait for this to complete. Okay. The step is now completed. As you can see that it's completed. Now I'm gonna go to my S3. I will see an output folder, just some aggregate data. Now the step function will resume its execution. Now since the job is complete, it should now directly go to terminate cluster. So let's wait for that now to happen. So I'm just gonna wait here. Okay. I think there's again, based on my testing, I think, oh, okay, done, cool. So the job was completed and now it's going to the terminating the cluster. And here you can see over here terminating, right? The cluster is now terminated. Absolutely fantastic, right? So automatically, right, it created an EMR on EC2. It did the bootstrapping action, and then it did submit the PySpark job. The PySpark job was success. So step function resumed execution, and then the cluster was terminated automatically. Absolutely flawless. Complete orchestration done by step functions. The entire code, the sample PySpark code, the step function JSON is there on my GitHub. So I would encourage and recommend to try it out. With that being said, keep smiling, keep programming, and I'll see you in the next video.